Breathe, Bruce. Relax. I'm calling an ambulance. I'll take it from here. It's New Year's Eve. I find you bleeding out. I don't know what to do. Today on the Comic Book Report, Batman Beyond Neo Year. Stick around and check it out. Greetings from Gotham, everyone. My name is Dominic, and today you're tuning in to the Comic Book Report, where we review comic books and graphic novels so you can get an idea of what to read. And today I'm finally reading Batman Beyond Neo Year from Collin Kelly and Jackson Lanzing. Admittedly, I am a fan of the animated series, but this is my first foray into the Batman Beyond comic universe. And while I'm excited to review it today, I first wanted to go ahead and shout out our channel sponsor, OrganicPriceBooks.com. You can use my code, TheComicBookReport, at checkout to receive $2 off of your order. Please note if you use my affiliate code or link to make a purchase, I will receive a small commission, but it's a great way to support our channel. Thank you so much for considering. Now let's get started with today's review. First, some quick facts about today's collection. The issues in this volume were written by Collin Kelly and Jackson Lanzing, and illustrated by Max Dunbar. The comics in this collection were first published by DC Comics beginning in 2022. The volume itself collects Batman Beyond Neo Year, issues 1 through 6, and a story from Batman Urban Legends, issue 7. And finally, this trade paperback collection comes in at 208 pages. At this time, I'd like to issue a general spoiler warning. I will be flipping through the contents of today's collection and commenting on plot points throughout. You've been advised. Okay, and here's our first look at that standard size trade paperback. This collection does have a matte paper stock and a glued binding, which I'll show momentarily. This trade paperback does collect the entire Batman Neo Year miniseries along with that story from Batman Urban Legends. I have heard that Collin Kelly and Jackson Lanzing are returning for a sequel, but I will say this is still a great self-contained read in its own right. I had heard a lot of positive buzz about this series as the issues were coming out, and I had yet to read any Batman Beyond comics. I have been a fan of that animated series, as I mentioned earlier, so I was waiting to hear about a series like this before finally diving in. And frankly, I'm really happy I did. And now that we've taken a look at the exterior, I do want to just show off that glued binding. It's pretty standard fare here for a trade paperback. I had no issues with the binding myself. You can take a look to see if there's any gutter loss as we make our way through this video, but overall, I was really satisfied with how this collection was put together. And as we dive in here, for those that did see my free comic book day coverage, you might already know that I was actually able to get this trade paperback signed by the co-authors Collin Kelly and Jackson Lanzing, as they were doing a signing at my local LCS, local comic shop. Both of these gentlemen were super agreeable and very pleasant. I had them sign my copy, they personalized it, and even wrote "Go Beyond," which I thought was a ton of fun. I was also able to chat with them just about this series and what they're working on now. At the time of the recording, they had just finished the end of the follow-up to this Batman Beyond Neo Year. One of the creators even teased that in the same way this whole collection is kind of an homage to a sort of crime noir, the next chapter would really have to do with Gotham Underground and more monstrous villains. And frankly, my interest is a little more than piqued, and I can't wait to check out that series follow-up when it gets released. As for today's collection, I will say this whole series begins with quite a bang, as Bruce Wayne, the former Batman, is dying in the arms of Terry McGinnis, his young protege, and of course the titular Batman Beyond. As Bruce Wayne is dying in his arms, Batman Beyond basically vows to bring his murderer to justice. We get a lot of narration in this book, which is perfect for a Batman title. I think what's interesting is it's one part sort of eulogy, monologuing, and one part him kind of just stating what he's gonna do to capture this foe. If you're brand new to Batman Beyond, I think you can absolutely pick up this collection without really needing to see the animated series. However, it definitely helps to lay the groundwork for the character of Terry McGinnis, and we know again that he's taken on the mantle of Batman. But as long as you know that factoid, I think just about anyone can go ahead and pick this off the shelves and not really be too lost. Batman Beyond is set in a future Gotham City where Bruce Wayne is a very old man, and we've seen kind of crime evolve. We see crime fighting evolve, but frankly, Gotham is still Gotham. There is a ton of crime and violence going on throughout the city, and now with the original Batman dead, Batman Beyond is tasked with upholding justice. And I think what's really interesting about this story arc is that the villain is not even necessarily a human person as much as an artificial intelligence. And it's basically embedded in all of these systems and electronics and networks of all of Neo Gotham. So that the murderer who killed Bruce Wayne is basically the city itself after it sort of achieved this kind of sentience. Early in the story, Terry McGinnis does have an opportunity to destroy this intelligence, but he ultimately believes that Bruce Wayne would not want to take a life, even an artificially intelligent one. This act of mercy ultimately spins out into the main 6-issue miniseries, where Terry McGinnis is trying to stop this artificial intelligence that has really embedded itself within Gotham. We also have some interesting notes like the changing of the guard with Commissioner Barbara Gordon stepping down from the GCPD, and the rise of this kind of new sort of pop technological industrialist who's running for politics. It's a really interesting time in the history of Gotham City itself, and we have Terry McGinnis basically being hunted down by this artificial intelligence who kind of rules over Gotham. Because of that, he's had to rely on a lot of low-tech solutions. Even his Batsuit, he's trying to go mostly off the grid, mostly offline. His technology in his suit is starting to get really scaled back. He even runs out of the jet fuel for his iconic jet boots that lets him soar through the skies. So we have a really grounded, really dialed back Terry McGinnis. This is not the high-tech Batman Beyond we have in the animated series, who always has Bruce Wayne in his ear as a kind of guide. No, instead, this is ostensibly Terry McGinnis alone against the criminal element of Gotham City. In fact, this is a criminal element that no one can really tangibly see, as it's an artificial intelligence. I really liked what the authors did in this storyline, stripping Terry McGinnis all the way back. He no longer has his mentorship, he no longer has his high-tech gadgets that really give him an upper hand. It's basically him and his own grit and perseverance to try to win the day, and I really loved that. It really just goes down to the core of who Batman is, and like whoever's carrying the mantle, what makes them Batman. It's really the character of the man, even more than the technology, more than the gimmicks, more than the money, all of that stuff. And I think that was such a successful way to launch this Batman Beyond franchise, and I was gripped from the very beginning. Interestingly enough, other than a couple panels in the beginning where Terry McGinnis basically tries to distance himself from a lot of his close relationships after this artificial intelligence breaks loose, we don't really have a lot of appearances from a lot of the mainstays from the animated series. Again, we have Bruce Wayne in the beginning, and we have a little bit from Barbara Gordon throughout the book, but his girlfriend character, his other friends from high school, his family, all of that is kind of missing from this book, but I think in many ways that allowed for a kind of fresh start for this storytelling, and it allowed new readers to really on-ramp for this title without needing a ton of continuity or background information, and I think it was pretty successfully done overall. I think one of the most commendable features of Batman Beyond Neo Year is really how much it does feel like the animated series in the best possible way. This does feel like the Terry McGinnis we know from the series, just aged up a little bit and dealing with more grave circumstances. And I pointed this out to the co-authors when I met them at the signing, and they said, yes, it's as if you had the animated series and it's gone beyond. And obviously it's a really fun little play in words and a pun with the title, but I really do feel like this title has really gone beyond what we saw in the animated series. Terry is growing up. He's having to make it by his own merit, and I really like that. I really feel like this was a development for this character, and again, while it will serve as someone's entrance to Batman Beyond, I think it really will reward longtime fans of the animated series as well. Another high bar for me with this collection was the incredible art from Max Dunbar. I think he really faithfully realized the aesthetic of the Batman Beyond cartoon world, but and again, with a little bit more of a modern touch, it felt absolutely just believable as a comic book graphic novel, but I think for fans of that animated series franchise, it's definitely a recognizable style, and I really love that. The art throughout was very polished. I found that all the character models were very distinctive and lively, and perhaps one of my favorite features is the world building aspects of the art itself. Genre-wise, this is definitely again in that kind of noir, dystopian science fiction sort of realm, but because of that, the more I got of the actual world and setting, the more I found myself to be immersed in Neo Gotham. And I really loved that. I love seeing the differences with this future version of Gotham versus the more contemporary fare we see in a lot of Batman titles these days. Again, it's recognizably Batman Beyond, but there were so many little details and facets to this world that it was really easy to just click in and get ready to just unfold this story. And I really, really liked that. The art was never a distraction, it really served the storytelling. And while Batman Beyond might be technologically pulled back as he limits the abilities of his suit and he kind of runs out of materials, the world is by no means low tech. In fact, it is absolutely futuristic, and I really enjoyed that as well. I think it was really amazing when you're dealing with all of these kind of futuristic science fiction ideas and images to tell a story that still feels so realistic, gritty, and street level was really an accomplishment. The characters were just so authentic, and it made the journey absolutely pleasurable. I think the story overall was really well paced. I think that it really kind of pushed in a direction that was in some ways predictable, but absolutely interesting and captivating throughout. We do have Batman Beyond facing off against this artificial intelligence. One of my favorite points in the storyline has him just completely off the grid as one of his associates sort of has to recover after she is injured in a bout with this artificial intelligence. And we have Terry McGinnis kind of making the most of his time off the grid in the Batcave, kind of working out and trying to hone his mind and body for the final confrontations we get in the resolution of this story arc. And frankly, I don't want to get into too many spoilers for the end of this collection because I really hope many people will read and enjoy this story for themselves, but I was definitely satisfied with the conclusion. I again think this can be read as a standalone graphic novel, but I think the fact that there is a sequel in the works is also not entirely surprising. Like I said, the foundation of this whole Batman Beyond world is really beautifully portrayed in this collection. Like I said, it feels authentic to the cartoon, but it also feels like we're going a little bit beyond. And I think with just such a rich tapestry of this world building and the characters on top of it, sequels seem inevitable, and I think that that's a really good thing. I can't wait to see Collin Kelly and Jackson Lanzing team up again for future adventures in this Neo Gotham world. And again, I will reiterate that this is my first Batman Beyond comic book reading experience. I know there have been several other Batman Beyond comics, but I have heard a general consensus being that it's really of varied quality, with a lot of different adaptations and series kind of being better than others. But I think for me, reading this for the first time after being such a big fan of the animated series, to me, this absolutely feels like a worthy successor to that animated universe. I feel like you could go seamlessly from that series into this book and definitely believe that this is Terry McGinnis. Definitely believe that that was that world's Bruce Wayne dying in his arms. And I really just liked it. I love seeing an extension of a childhood show where it felt like it didn't miss a beat and if anything elevated the previous source material. I also like the way Terry McGinnis kind of had his sort of broody narration throughout the book. A lot of it felt like he was speaking directly to Bruce Wayne. Again, it almost reads like a eulogy as he's trying to do right by his mentor, but also to continue to step into the mantle of Batman and this role he's been operating out of for some time. But now, really in a new way, all his own, with Bruce Wayne having passed on. And after we reach the end of the collection itself, we are given quite a handful of extras, which I really love seeing. We have some different cover art, variant cover art, sketch work, different levels of kind of production images, and I was really impressed to see just how many extras we got for a standard size trade paperback collection. I felt like it was definitely a richness of extras, which is definitely a selling point for some collectors out there like myself. Really happy to see all of these different details. I do definitely think if you can get this collection while it's still in print, it might be worthwhile to do so. You can find it pretty affordably, and frankly, it was such a fun ride, at least for me. I'm such a huge Batman fan, and so to read kind of an extension of Batman that I don't really get to experience as much, that being Batman Beyond, I really just enjoyed my time. I think broader Batman fans will definitely enjoy this title as well. I think if you're just a mainstream Batman reader, this might be kind of an on-the-fence read, but I would encourage you, if this has sounded interesting, seek it out. And now that we've reached the end, all that's left is to give this collection a grade. For a truly exciting and dynamic follow-up to the animated series, the Comic Book Report is happy to give Batman Beyond Neo Year by Collin Kelly, Jackson Lanzing, and Max Dunbar a B+. This was such a great on-ramp for new readers for the Batman Beyond title, and a really fun Batman crime detective story, successfully blending genres of noir, dystopian, science fiction, and even kind of a cyberpunk feel. I was really wowed by just what this book was able to accomplish. The art throughout was consistent, vibrant, and lush, and really just made this world come alive. For fans of the animated series, I'm happy to report that the voices of all the characters felt truly authentic, and that's definitely high praise from this reader. I am genuinely looking forward to future adventures from Batman Beyond in this incarnation of Neo Gotham, but let me know what you think in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching the Comic Book Report. Don't forget to give this video a like, a comment, and maybe check out some of my other videos. Have a good one.